I never imagined that love could rot from the inside, that the same house where laughter once echoed could turn into a silent grave. My name is Lena Carter, and I am 55 years old now. All that matters is the story I'm about to tell you, the story of how I destroyed the only person who truly loved me, my own daughter. It all started 2 years ago in a quiet neighborhood outside Portland, Oregon. We had a white painted house, a small garden, and a life that looked perfect from the outside. People used to call us the happy family. But behind those walls, something was changing. Something I couldn't see clearly until it was far too late. My husband, Michael, had started to drift away from me. At first. It was little things. He'd spend more time at work. He'd forget our dinner plans. He'd smile less. And then he started talking more to our daughter, Emily. Emily was 20-1. Bright, beautiful, full of life. She had his eyes, his sense of humor, and the kind of smile that could make a bad day seem okay again. But slowly, I started noticing how his laughter came only when she was around. It wasn't jealousy at first, it was fear. A mother's fear that her daughter had replaced her, that I had become invisible in my own home. I tried to tell myself I was imagining things, that every mother feels this way when her child grows up. But then one night I heard them talking in the living room. It was late past midnight. I was upstairs, half asleep, when I heard Michael's voice. "You can't tell her, Emily." "Not yet." I froze. "Tell me what?" Why would my husband be keeping secrets from me with my own daughter? The next morning, they both acted normal. Michael kissed me goodbye before leaving for work. Emily made pancakes, humming softly, pretending like nothing had happened. But from that day on, something inside me broke. I started watching them, listening, reading between every smile, every word. I found messages on his phone once. He'd forgotten it on the kitchen counter. The texts weren't romantic, but they were secretive. "She's not ready yet. She'll find out soon. Don't worry, we'll handle it together." Every word burned into my brain like acid. I told myself it was betrayal, that my husband and daughter were hiding something from me, something unforgivable, and so I decided to find out the truth myself. I started following Emily. She used to leave the house every afternoon, saying she was meeting friends or working on college projects. But one day, I followed her car. She drove to a motel on the edge of town. My heart stopped when I saw Michael's car parked outside. For 10 minutes, I sat there shaking, crying, and unable to breathe. I didn't go inside that day. I didn't need to. My mind had already written the story. The next week was a blur of silence and planning. I didn't confront them. I didn't scream. I smiled. I cooked dinner. I acted normal. Because in my mind, I had already decided what I was going to do. It happened on a Friday night. Michael was away on a business trip. Emily was home, alone. I told her we needed to talk. We sat in the kitchen, just the two of us, like we used to when she was a little girl. She smiled, thinking it was just another mother-daughter chat, and I remember how her eyes sparkled in the yellow light. "Mom, you look tired. Are you okay?" she asked. I smiled back. "I'm fine, sweetheart. I need to ask you something." And then I asked her about the motel, about the messages, about her and her father, the look on her face. I'll never forget it. Shock, confusion, fear, not guilt. Never guilt, but I didn't see that then. I only saw what I wanted to see. She tried to explain. She said it wasn't what I thought, that there was something else going on, something I didn't understand, but I didn't listen. I couldn't. And in that one blind, hateful moment, I ended her life. I remember the silence afterward. It wasn't peace. It was horror, the kind of silence that screams louder than any sound. When Michael came home the next day, his scream shattered that silence. He fell to the floor beside her body, holding her, crying like a child. I still remember his words. They haunt me every night. She was trying to protect you, damn it. She was helping me plan your surprise surgery. The doctor said your heart was failing. We didn't want to tell you until it was ready. And in that instant, my world collapsed. The text, the motel, the secrets, all of it had been for me. I had killed my daughter because I couldn't trust love. Now I live with ghosts, not the kind that move chairs or whisper names in the dark, but the kind that live inside your chest, whispering the same words over and over again. You were wrong. If hell exists, I'm already in it, because every time I close my eyes, I see Emily standing at the kitchen door, smiling, and I know that somewhere, somehow, she forgave me. But I never will. They told me it was shock. The doctors, the police, the neighbors, all of them used the same word. Shock. But shock doesn't whisper to you at night. Shock doesn't call your name from the hallway at 3 a.m. Shock doesn't sound exactly like your daughter. It's been 6 months since that night. 6 months since Emily. Since I lost her, Michael doesn't speak to me anymore. He moved out after the investigation, packed a single suitcase, took his car, and disappeared. No court, no charges, no screaming. Just a look of disgust that cut deeper than any knife ever could. The house feels empty now. I've stopped cooking, stopped sleeping in our bed. I live mostly in the kitchen, the same place where it happened. Sometimes I sit at the table, stare at the spot where she used to sit, and imagine her fingers tapping against the wood like she always did when she was nervous. I tell myself it's just memory, but then I hear it tap, 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 exactly the same rhythm. At first, I thought I was imagining it. Grief does that. It makes your brain chase ghosts. But the tapping grew louder. Then came the humming. It was her song, the one she used to hum when she was cooking or painting. I froze in my chair. I couldn't breathe. It came from upstairs, from her room. I should have run, but I didn't. I walked up those stairs, every step heavier than the last. The hallway smelled like dust and lavender, the same air freshener she used to love. Her door was open. The window was shut, but her music box, the one I'd broken years ago, was spinning slowly, playing that same broken melody. I felt my knees give out. I dropped to the floor, trembling, whispering her name. Emily, ... nothing. Only the sound of the music box fading into silence. The next morning, I found something strange. On the kitchen table was a glass of water, half full, with tiny red lipstick marks on the rim. I hadn't worn lipstick in months, and then I noticed the smell, her perfume. Jasmine and vanilla, the one I'd packed away with her clothes. I wanted to believe Michael had come back, maybe left something there by mistake, but he hadn't been here. No one had. I went to the bathroom to wash my face, and that's when I saw it, written on the mirror in faint letters, drawn through the steam. You were wrong. I screamed until my throat burned. But when I wiped the mirror clean, the words were gone. Days turned into nights that felt endless. I stopped eating. I stopped answering the phone, and yet, every night around 2 a.m., I'd hear her again. Sometimes it was laughter, sometimes crying. Sometimes the sound of footsteps just outside my door. I tried to tell myself it was guilt, that maybe I deserved it. But deep inside, a small, sick part of me began to hope. Hope that she was still alive. One night, I found myself outside her old room again. The door was open, it always was. The moonlight spilled across her bed, and on the pillow lay something I hadn't seen before, a folded piece of paper. My hand shook as I opened it. It was a photo. Me, Michael, and Emily standing in front of the house, smiling. But someone had circled Emily's face in red ink. Below it, a single line. You never listened. That's when the lights went out. The house fell into silence so deep it felt alive. And then, in that silence, I heard her voice, right behind me. Mom, why did you do it? I turned around, but there was no one there. Just the cold, the dark, and my own ragged breathing. I ran out of the room, down the stairs, into the night. The neighbors found me hours later, sitting in the middle of the street, still holding the photo, still whispering her name. They say grief changes people. That grief didn't change me. Guilt did. I don't know what's real anymore. Sometimes I think I see her reflection in windows. Sometimes I swear I feel her hand on my shoulder. And sometimes when I look in the mirror, I see her face instead of mine. I know what you're thinking, but I've lost my mind. Maybe I have. But if you'd heard her voice, seen what I've seen, you'd understand. The truth is, maybe I didn't kill her. Maybe she never died. Maybe she's still here, waiting for me to understand what I've done. Or maybe she's waiting for me to join her. I tell myself I'm ready. That one of these nights, when I hear her voice calling from upstairs, I'll answer it. I'll walk up those stairs one last time. And when I open that door, maybe she'll be there. Maybe she'll smile. And maybe, for the first time since that night, I'll finally understand the truth. It started with a phone call. A simple, ordinary ring cutting through the quiet of an ordinary night. But when I answered, no one spoke, only breathing. Soft, slow, deliberate breathing. I froze, clutching the receiver. Hello, I whispered. Static answered, and then so faint I almost missed it came a voice. Mom? I dropped the phone. The sound was unmistakable. I'd heard it every day for 21 years, and every night in my dreams for the last 6 months. Emily, the line went dead. I stood there for what felt like hours, the dial tone buzzing like a heartbeat that refused to stop. Maybe someone was playing a cruel joke. Maybe I was losing my mind. But deep down, beneath the layers of grief and guilt, something flickered hope. The next morning, I went through old boxes in the attic, searching for anything, everything that could tell me she was alive. Photos, letters, her college notes. I spread them across the floor like puzzle pieces, and that's when I found something odd. A USB drive. No label, just a small silver stick buried inside one of her notebooks. I plugged it into my old laptop. The screen flickered and a single video file appeared. It was dated 2 weeks after that night. My hand shook as I clicked play. The image was grainy, like security camera footage. A timestamp rolled in the corner, 3:17 a.m. The angle looked familiar, our front porch. The door opened. A woman stepped inside, wearing Emily's jacket. Her hair, her posture, even the way she looked around before closing the door, it was all Emily. I paused the video and leaned closer. The camera caught her face for only a second, but it was enough. She looked alive. Tired, pale, but alive. I wanted to scream, to laugh, to run out of the house and tell the world my daughter hadn't died. But then the questions began. If she was alive, why hadn't she come back? Why hadn't she called me until last night? And why was that footage hidden, tucked away where I'd never have found it by accident? That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the house sounded like footsteps. Every gust of wind felt like her breath on my neck. At exactly 3:17 a.m., I turned on the porch light. Nothing. Just the empty yard and the shadows of the trees swaying like they were whispering secrets to one another. But when I turned off the light and looked through the window again, I saw it, a faint outline near the fence. Someone standing there, motionless, watching. I called out, "Emily?" No answer, just silence deep and heavy. Then a soft laugh drifted through the darkness. It was gentle, almost kind, the same laugh that once filled our kitchen. And then it was gone. By morning, I convinced myself it was another hallucination. Maybe I'd watched the footage too many times. Maybe guilt had twisted into obsession. I decided to go to the police. But when I reached the station, I couldn't speak. How do you tell someone your dead daughter called you? That you have video proof she's alive, but you're not even sure what's real anymore? I left before anyone could ask questions. When I got home, the house felt different. The air was heavier, colder. A faint scent of jasmine, the perfume she always wore, floated through the hallway. On the kitchen table, where the video drive had been, lay a new note. Same red ink, same handwriting I could swear was hers. "You're getting closer." I stared at the words until they blurred. Closer to what? To finding her? Or to losing what's left of my mind? That night, I replayed the video again. But something had changed. The timestamp was the same, the frame the same, but when the woman turned toward the camera this time, she wasn't smiling. Her eyes were hollow, and her lips moved, forming words I couldn't hear. I turned up the volume. Static filled the speakers, and through it, one phrase broke through, low, broken, and unmistakable. "You didn't see the real me." I shut the laptop and stumbled back, heart pounding. Maybe Emily was alive. Maybe someone wanted me to believe she was. Or maybe my guilt had learned how to use electricity. Whatever the truth is, it's waiting in that moment between sleep and waking, in the voice that keeps calling from the other end of the line. Tomorrow, I'm going back to that motel. The one where I thought everything began. If Emily is out there, that's where she be. And if she's not, then maybe I'll finally know who or what has been answering when I pick up the phone. The motel hadn't changed. Same flickering neon sign, same gravel parking lot that crunched beneath my shoes. Even the air felt stale, like the night I first came here months ago. I parked in the same spot where I'd seen Michael's car back then. But this time, the space was empty, a ghost of memory sitting in it instead. The lobby light buzzed as I stepped inside. Behind the counter sat a man I didn't recognize, eyes half closed, a small radio humming beside him. "Do you still rent out room 17? I asked. He frowned, glanced at a chart. "Room 17's been closed for years, ma'am. Water damage." My mouth went dry. "No, I was here. I saw cars parked there." He shook his head slowly. "You must be thinking of another place." I wanted to argue, but his tone wasn't cruel, just certain, like someone telling you gravity exists. I thanked him and walked back outside. Room 17 stood at the far end, its window boarded up. A pale ribbon of police tape clung to the doorknob, torn and faded. When the wind moved, the tape whispered against the wood like a voice trying to speak. I reached for the knob anyway. It turned. Unlocked. The door creaked open into darkness. Inside smelled of dust and cold metal. A single chair sat in the center of the room, facing the wall. On the chair, a tape recorder. I pressed play, at first only static, then breathing. Then a woman's voice. "You don't remember, do you?" My chest tightened. It was my voice. I pressed stop, then play again, hoping I'd imagined it. Same words, same tone. But on the second play, another sound overlapped, a faint laugh behind mine. Emily's. The tape clicked off. I backed away, heart pounding. That's when I saw the writing on the wall, faint letters drawn in dust. She was never gone. I ran. Outside, the world looked different. Colors too bright, sky too white. For a moment, I thought I'd gone blind. I stumbled toward my car, but the lot wasn't empty anymore. 2 vehicles now, both black, both identical. My car key fit neither. I turned toward the road. A woman stood there, about my height, same coat, same hair. She raised her hand and waved. I wanted to call out, but my throat locked. Then she turned and walked away, vanishing into the fog that hadn't been there a second ago. I whispered, "Emily?" No echo came back. Just silence, the kind that feels like waiting. When I finally reached home, hours later, or maybe minutes, I couldn't tell. The clocks were all wrong. The one in the kitchen read 3:17 a.m., the same time as the video. The laptop was open on the table, the USB drive still inside, but the file was gone. In its place, a folder named Room 17. Inside were dozens of short clips, each only a few seconds long. Each showed me standing somewhere in my own house. The hallway, the kitchen, even my bedroom. Sometimes I was staring at nothing. Sometimes I was talking, but no sound came out. The final clip froze my blood. It showed me sitting at the table, staring directly into the camera. And behind me, clear as day, stood Emily. She leaned close to my ear and whispered something. I turned around to listen. The screen went black. Then the laptop speakers crackled, and that same line from the motel tape echoed through the room. "You don't remember, do you?" Now I'm not sure which version of me is real, the one watching or the one being watched. Maybe Emily never died. Maybe I did. Maybe the guilt became its own person, wearing her face, saying the words I refused to hear. The lights flicker as I speak this. If the recording stops, if the voice you hear next doesn't sound like mine, don't listen. Because sometimes the ghosts we run from aren't dead. They're memories waiting for us to catch up. Morning came like a lie. The light through my curtains was too white, too clean, like the world had been scrubbed and repainted overnight. I sat up and realized the bed faced the wrong wall. The dresser had moved. Even the window looked smaller, as if the room itself had shifted while I slept. Downstairs, the kitchen smelled faintly of bleach. 3 mugs sat drying beside the sink. I only own 2. On the refrigerator door, family photos hung in the same pattern, but the faces weren't quite right. In one picture, Michael's tie was blue instead of gray. In another, Emily's smile had changed, half open, uncertain, like someone had told her to hold it longer. And then there was the newest photo. Me, standing in the backyard, holding a red balloon. It was dated 2 days ago. I don't remember it being taken. The phone rang once and stopped. When I checked the caller ID, the screen simply said, "Home," but I was home. I tried to laugh, but it came out dry, like paper tearing. Something inside me whispered that maybe this wasn't my house anymore, just a replica built out of guilt and memory. I needed air. The neighborhood looked familiar yet wrong, the street signs cleaner, the lawns sharper. Every mailbox the same shade of dull gray. Even the birds seemed rehearsed, flying in perfect patterns. At the corner, a woman was walking her dog. She looked exactly like me from behind. Same hair, same coat. When she turned, her face flickered mine, then not mine, then gone. I ran home, heart hammering against the bones that suddenly didn't feel like mine either. Inside, the living room TV had turned itself on. A local news anchor spoke calmly about an unidentified woman found wandering near Route 17, claiming to have lost her memory. A grainy image filled the screen. It was me, same coat, same eyes. But the woman looked empty, like someone had erased the outline of her soul. The anchor's voice continued. Authorities believe she may have been living under a false identity. The screen went black. On the table lay a folder I hadn't seen before, marked patient number 317. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside, psychological evaluations, therapy notes, and a photo ID clipped to the last page. Name, Emily Harper. Date of birth, March 17th, mother's name. Margaret Harper. I stared until the letters blurred. Emily Harper, but that was my daughter's name. The file described months of memory displacement therapy, experimental guilt transference, controlled delusion environments. Each report ended with a single line. Subject still believes she is the mother. The paper slipped from my hands. From upstairs came the faint click of a door opening. My bedroom door. I crept up the staircase, each step creaking like a confession. The mirror at the end of the hallway was covered with a white sheet. I pulled it down. A woman looked back. For a heartbeat, she was me. Then her expression changed, softer, younger, trembling. Emily. She mouthed something I couldn't hear. I leaned closer. Her lips formed the words. You took my place. The glass rippled like water. I stumbled back, knocking over the hall lamp. Light shattered across the walls, flickering between two versions of the same house mine, and one darker, dustier, filled with whispers. Somewhere between those flashes, a truth settled in. Maybe I hadn't lost my daughter. Maybe I'd become her. Maybe the therapy wasn't to cure my grief, but to erase it by replacing me with her. Now, when I move, I hear a second heartbeat echo mine. Sometimes my reflection lags a second behind. Sometimes she smiles first. I don't know which of us is real anymore, the mother who grieves or the daughter who is never gone. If you're listening to this, remember, guilt is contagious. It changes shape until you wear it like skin, and once it fits, you can never take it off. I used to mark the days on the kitchen calendar. Now, every morning begins with the same square, the same date, March 17th. It doesn't move no matter how many times I cross it out. The house looks familiar until I notice the details. Today the curtains are red instead of blue. Yesterday the stairs were carpeted. Now they're wood. Each version of the house feels like it's remembering itself wrong. I've started keeping a notebook proof that I still exist. Page after page of notes. Coffee tastes metallic today. Hallway longer than before. Heard Emily humming in the vent. But when I wake up, the notebook is empty again, its pages crisp and new. Only the indentation of my handwriting remains, pressed deep into the paper like a ghost trying to leave fingerprints. Every mirror in the house now shows a slightly delayed reflection. When I blink, she blinks half a second later. When I turn my head, she hesitates. Sometimes I catch her smiling when I'm not. This morning, she lifted her hand and pointed to the attic door behind me. I didn't move. She mouthed one word, "Come." The attic stairs groaned as I climbed. The air smelled of dust and old paint, but underneath was something sweeter like lavender and hospital disinfectant. In the corner sat a tall mirror draped with a sheet. Its outline pulsed faintly as if breathing. I pulled the sheet away. The woman in the glass looked exactly like me, but her eyes were clearer, calmer. She spoke first. "It's time to remember who we are." Her voice wasn't coming from my mouth, yet I felt the vibration inside my chest. "You were the echo," she said. "You were built from what she couldn't forgive." The attic walls rippled. The boards under my feet became reflections, dozens of them, each showing a different version of me, laughing, crying, shouting, silent. In one, I saw a younger girl, Emily, standing behind the reflection, touching the glass from the other side. I whispered, "Which one of us is real?" They all answered at once. Yes, the word folded in on itself, looping through the room until it was no longer a sound but a feeling, a constant vibration humming beneath my skin. The mirror brightened until it filled the attic with white light. I covered my eyes, but the light seeped through my fingers, through my eyelids, into me. When it dimmed, the attic was gone. I was standing in a room made entirely of mirrors, floor, ceiling, walls. Each surface showed a different timeline. The house on moving day, Emily's first birthday, the night of the storm, the empty motel room. All versions happening at once. My reflection stepped forward from one of the mirrors and stopped inches from me. Her lips moved, and though no sound came out, I understood. There's only one way to be free except that you are both. She placed her hand against the glass. I did the same. The surface rippled like water, and our hands met in the middle. For a moment, everything aligned: memories, guilt, laughter, loss, until they blended into something wordless. Now, when I look into any mirror, I see both of us standing there, the mother and the daughter, layered perfectly, breathing the same breath. Sometimes I wake in Emily's room, sometimes in my own. Sometimes the reflection waves first. Maybe that's what forgiveness really is. Not forgetting, not escaping, but learning to share the same face without breaking the glass. I stopped counting the days. Every sunrise feels borrowed, every night half remembered. The house has begun to speak again, not in words, but in soft repetitions of things I once said. When I whisper I'm sorry, the walls answer a heartbeat later. I found a stack of notebooks in the hallway closet yesterday. My handwriting filled them, but none of the pages made sense. Dates leapt backward and forward, describing events I haven't lived yet, and always the same phrase at the end of every entry: listen to the others. At first, I thought it meant the voices that drift through the vents when the house settles. But tonight, I understood. The sound came from beneath the floor, gentle, rhythmic, almost like someone breathing through water. When I pressed my ear against the boards, I heard my own name whispered over and over, each time in a slightly different tone: angry, sad, laughing, afraid, all of them mine. I followed the voice to the living room. The mirror above the fireplace had changed again. Now it reflected the room the way it used to look years ago: the old sofa, the plant Michael bought me, Emily's school books stacked by the lamp. And on the couch sat a woman who looked exactly like me, head tilted, listening. She spoke without moving her lips. "We've all been here before." I wanted to run, but my body wouldn't move. Every step I took, another version of me appeared in the reflection, each one whispering something I couldn't quite catch. One covered her ears, another held a child's drawing against her chest. A third stood behind them, eyes closed, mouthing silent prayers. The glass began to hum, a low vibration that filled the room and then my head. The voices layered together until they sounded like wind pushing through narrow spaces. I understood fragments. It wasn't her fault. You took it from us. We're still waiting. I covered my ears, but the sound came from inside me now. At some point, the lights went out. The house vanished into a gray that wasn't darkness exactly, more like the color of forgetting. I reached out and felt walls that were warm to the touch, as if something alive pulsed beneath the wallpaper. A single voice rose above the rest. It sounded young, breathless. "You remember me, don't you?" I whispered. "Emily?" Silence. Then laughter light, echoing, familiar. I turned toward it and saw myself as a child, standing in the doorway. Her hair was tangled, her dress faded, but her eyes were mine. "You're getting closer," she said, "but you're not ready to see which one you are yet." When I blinked, She was gone. Only the mirror remained, its surface rippling like a slow tide. My reflection smiled first this time, and for a moment, I thought she looked proud of me. Then I noticed something impossible. Behind her stood a crowd of figures, dozens of them, each one frozen mid-whisper, all wearing my face, all watching. And somewhere among them, a child's hand pressed softly against the glass. I backed away until my shoulders hit the wall. The hum faded. The house was silent again. I don't know if the voices are inside the walls or inside me. Maybe there's no difference anymore. Maybe every thought we bury becomes another version of ourselves, waiting in the dark, repeating the words we were too afraid to say. Tonight, before I sleep, I'll leave the mirror uncovered. If the others speak again, I'll listen. Because if I'm quiet enough, I think I might finally hear which one of us is real. I started packing before dawn. Not the kind of packing people do when they're leaving for good. No suitcases, no plans, just gathering proof that I'd existed here. A coffee mug, a photograph that never stayed the same for long, the last notebook that still held my handwriting when the light changed. The house was quiet, too quiet. Even the walls had stopped their slow breathing. I told myself out loud, I'm leaving. The sound came back softer, a near-perfect echo. But this time, the echo didn't match the timing. It spoke a heartbeat too soon, as if it already knew what I was about to decide. The front door stood at the end of the hallway like a dare. Every step closer, the floorboards felt less solid, like walking across shallow water. Frames on the wall turned as I passed, faces blurring into streaks of light. When I reached the door, my hand trembled. The knob was cold. I turned it once, and it opened onto another hallway. My hallway, the one I just walked through. I tried again faster, desperate, slamming the door, twisting, pulling. Each time it led somewhere slightly different, once to the kitchen from 10 years ago, once to a room filled with mirrors, once to a place with no sound at all, just a low vibration like an endless held breath. I sat down, dizzy, and whispered, "Please, let me out." Something whispered back. Out of what? Then footsteps above me. Light footsteps, like a child moving carefully so she wouldn't wake anyone. They crossed the ceiling, paused over the front hall, then stopped. I looked up. Dust rained down, soft as snow. I ran upstairs, half certain I'd finally see her Emily, or the memory that wore her shape. But when I reached the landing, every door was open, empty rooms. Only my own voice calling, bouncing from wall to wall. In the last doorway, I saw a faint glow, and the mirror there was different. No reflection, just depth and image of a road at night, stretching endlessly forward under the same pale sky I'd seen in dreams. I reached out. Warm air flowed from it, real air, scented with rain and distant asphalt. The hum in my head quieted for the first time in weeks. I took one step through. On the other side was stillness, not silence, but something wider. A field of dark grass bending under the wind, the house shrinking behind me like a shadow, trying to remember its shape. I didn't look back. Now I walk that road each evening. Sometimes I think I see windows flicker in the distance, like the house still searching for me. Sometimes I hear my own footsteps coming from ahead instead of behind. But the air feels clean here, and the echoes are finally learning to speak only once. If this place is another dream, it's one that breathes with me instead of through me. And if the others are still inside the mirrors, I hope they find their own door, their own stretch of road under an endless sky. Because maybe freedom isn't leaving the house at all. Maybe it's remembering that it was never built from walls, but from everything we couldn't forgive. At first, I believed I'd escaped. The air was colder out here, sharp enough to sting my lungs. The grass bowed to the same wind from my childhood summers, and the horizon shimmered with the promise of distance. I thought, this is what real feels like, but the road never ended. It only stretched and curved, soft as a question mark. Every hour, I passed the same crypt mailbox, the same fence half swallowed by weeds. And once, God help me, the same dead bird lying in the exact same pose, untouched by time. I began talking to the sky just to hear another sound. My voice felt lighter out here, almost free, until I noticed the echo. It came not from behind me, but from somewhere ahead, answering before I spoke. The same words, the same tone, just a half second early. As if rehearsing me, I walked faster. By dusk, a pale glow appeared on the horizon, a house silhouette, distant but familiar. My stomach turned. It couldn't be the same house, not after all this distance. Yet each step brought it into sharper focus. The porch light that flickered twice before holding steady, the sag in the roof above the left window, the faint hum in the air like a heartbeat under the floor. I stopped walking. The world tilted like a film reel catching on a frame. The wind froze mid-gust, even the grass stopped moving. Then the mailbox beside me creaked. Slowly, the lid lifted on its own. Inside lay one envelope, no stamp, no address, just my name and handwriting I didn't recognize. I tore it open. A single sheet, blank except for 5 words. You never left the house. The horizon pulsed, a faint ripple running through the sky. When I looked back, the road behind me was gone, swallowed by fog. Ahead, the house waited. Lights on, door open. I started laughing then. Soft at first, then louder, until it sounded like someone else laughing with me. I clutched the letter in my hand until the paper turned warm. Maybe I'd always been walking circles inside the same moment. Maybe the road was never a road at all, just another hallway I hadn't recognized. Night fell. I took a step toward the porch. The hum returned, low and steady, the same pitch as my heartbeat. Each pulse said, "Welcome back." And somewhere inside the walls, a child's voice whispered, soft, almost kind, "This time, maybe you'll stay out longer." Morning arrived without light. The windows glowed a dull gray, as if the sun had forgotten how to reach this place. I thought I'd fallen asleep by the road, but when I sat up, I was in my own bed again, same sheets. Same faint perfume of old dust and lavender. Only one thing was different. The photograph on the nightstand. It showed 3 people. Me, Michael, and Emily between us. All smiling. Except I don't remember that day. I don't remember that dress, or the scar on Michael's hand, or the way my own face looked almost younger. I tried to remember when it could have been taken, but every memory I touched split open into 2 versions. In one, Emily is 10 and laughing in the garden. In the other, she's already gone and the garden is bare. Both feel real. Both hurt exactly the same. The house is full of these fractures now. Photographs swap their faces when I'm not looking. Books rewrite their margins and my handwriting pages of apologies I don't remember writing. One note on the kitchen wall reads, "Stop editing the past." I don't know who left it. When I opened the fridge, The hum inside sounds like whispering, faint, rhythmic, like syllables almost forming words. It says my name sometimes, other times it says ours. I found Emily's shoes by the back door. I buried them once, I remember doing it, feeling the soil under my nails. Now they're clean, dry, untied, waiting. There's even mud on the mat, small footprints leading nowhere. I follow them until they vanish beneath the rug. When I lift the corner, there's a seam in the floorboards, a narrow line I've never noticed before. I fetch a knife and pry it open. Inside is a stack of cassette tapes, each labeled in a different hand. The first one says July 12th, Confession. I don't own a tape player, but when I hold it to my ear, I swear I hear breathing, my breathing. Then a voice, you keep making up new endings. I drop it. The sound keeps playing, faint but constant. By evening, the sky outside flickers between dusk and noon. Time bends the way glass warps heat. Every clock in the house points to a different year. I stand in the hallway, clutching a notebook that isn't mine, reading sentences that begin halfway through and end before they start. She was never your daughter. You were never her mother. You built each other from the same guilt. The words smear as I read, bleeding into the paper until they disappear. I go to the mirror in the living room, the one that used to show all my versions. Now it's blank, silver like frozen water. For the first time, I can't see myself at all. Only a faint outline of a child's drawing stick figures holding hands, smiling under a crooked sun. It's signed Emily. I whisper her name. The glass trembles, and for a second, I hear two voices answer mine and another, perfectly in sync. You remember it wrong. The power flickers. When the lights come back, every door in the house stands open. Behind each one is a different room from a different life. A hospital hallway, a child's birthday party, a field of grass at night, all overlapping, all waiting. Maybe none of them are real. Maybe all of them are. But I think I finally understand. I've been walking through memories that keep rewriting themselves to protect me. And now they're running out of space to hide the truth. The hum has changed. It isn't coming from the walls anymore. It's deeper, steadier, like it's under my skin. Every heartbeat echoes it. Every breath matches its rhythm. Last night, I followed it down the hallway, certain I'd find the same looping doors, the same empty rooms. But a new door waited at the end, narrow, unpainted, one I'd never seen before. No handle, just a faint vibration, as if something inside was alive and listening. I pressed my palm against it. The hum stopped. Then a voice, soft and precise, spoke from the other side. You already know what's here. I pushed and the wood gave way like paper inside light. Not warm or cold, just bright enough to erase edges. The walls were covered in words, written in dozens of handwritings, each one mine. Sentences looped and overlapped until they filled every inch. Apologies, questions, names, fragments of memories that never agreed. I stepped closer. One phrase repeated near the center in heavy black ink. You made her up to forgive yourself. I traced the letters, and for a moment I remembered something that didn't fit anywhere else. A hospital corridor, white and humming. Michael's voice calling my name from far away. A nurse saying, she's gone, not Emily, someone else. Someone smaller, and then nothing. The light flickered. The writing began to move, curling off the walls like smoke. Each line spoke as it lifted. You said she was 10. You said she died. Which story do you want to keep? I covered my ears, but the words kept finding me. They poured from the ceiling, from my own mouth, until everything became a storm of sound and ink. When it stopped, the room was blank. No walls, no floor, just gray distance. I stood there alone, breathing in a silence so perfect it hurt. Then, from far away, a child's voice whispered, "You can stop now." I turned, expecting to see her, the version I built, the daughter I'd remembered wrong, but there was only my own shadow, smaller, trembling. It raised its hand and touched my cheek. The warmth felt real. "You wanted someone to blame," it said, "so you gave her a name." Something inside me loosened. The stories, the mirrors, the voices, all of them folded inward, collapsing like paper figures burning from the edges. I tried to hold on to one memory, any memory, but they slid through my fingers. When the light dimmed, I was back in the living room. The mirror above the fireplace was cracked now, splitting my reflection into dozens of slivers. Each fragment moved slightly out of sync. Each smiled at a different time. And in one shard, for just a heartbeat, I saw her face, not as a ghost or punishment, but as a child who had been waiting for me to tell the truth. I whispered, "I'm sorry." Every reflection melded it with me. The hum faded. For the first time, the house didn't echo back. It just listened. Morning returns like a held breath released. No hum, no echo, just the faint tick of a clock that finally keeps time. The light feels honest again, pale, simple, unshifting. For the first time I can remember, the air in the house doesn't taste like memory. It's just air. I walk through each room slowly, touching the edges of things I once feared. The kitchen window opens without resistance. Outside, the trees stand ordinary and still, their branches full of sparrows instead of whispers. Even the silence sounds different, wide, forgiving. On the table lies one of the old notebooks, its pages blank except for a single line written in soft pencil. Let it be what it was. I close it gently. In the hallway, the mirrors no longer shimmer. They show dust, sunlight, the faint outline of a woman who looks tired but whole. Her eyes are mine, but calmer. When she breathes, I can hear the house breathe with her, steady and alive. For a long moment, we simply look at each other. No distortions. No crowd of reflections waiting behind the glass. Just one image, complete. "You were both real," I whisper. "You were both love." And for the first time, the mirror doesn't answer back, because it doesn't need to. I step outside. The road is short now, ending where the trees begin. The grass moves with the wind, and the horizon doesn't shimmer, it just waits. I can't tell if this is the world or another memory, but maybe that no longer matters. Because grief doesn't vanish, it changes shape. It becomes air and light and quiet mornings where the walls no longer talk. It becomes forgiveness. I turn once, look back at the house. The windows catch the sun, and for an instant they glow not with ghosts, but with warmth. A simple reflection, a beginning. I start walking, and this time the road leads forward,